Hi there, and welcome to 5 things that I'm worried about for Zero Escape 3. If you guys saw a previous video I did, I worked on the top 5 things that I would really want to see in the next Zero Escape game, which comes out this summer. But, however, there are going to be certain things that I'm really afraid of for this series, other than a certain pink-haired sociopath with an axe. So, obviously, there's going to be spoilers here, everybody, so again, if you haven't played the previous games, don't watch this video because I might spoil something, or I'm definitely going to spoil something. So basically, will this game be more disappointing than not being able to pre-order the watch because I'm Canadian? Yeah, that's right, I called Axis and I'm like, hey, I'm in Canada, if I pre-order this game, can I have a watch? And they're like, oh, no, sorry. Broke my heart, it's so racist. Sorry, I'm Canadian. So anyway, it can't get more disappointing than that. Let's get into it. So, the first thing that I'm really afraid of is that this game won't have a satisfying resolution. Really, the first 2 games presented so many questions, and it's kind of in danger of not being able to answer all these questions in time for the 3rd game. There's a lot of questions and a lot of stuff they're gonna figure out, and a lot of stuff they need to explain, and I don't know if they can get it all out in one game. And especially considering some of the other games that this writer has done, mainly remember 11, which is I'm still upset about that ending. I'm kind of worried that it's going to be a plot that maybe ends on a cliffhanger and then we never see another game in the series again, or it just doesn't have a satisfying ending that answers enough questions. I think what we're probably going to get is something like the TV series Lost, where, yeah, there's a lot of questions, but if you kind of paid attention and if you're a really loyal fan and you kind of piece things together, then you can actually figure most things out. And that's kind of what went for 999 in Virtue's Last Reward as well. Seriously, that's one of the biggest draws of this game, and by this game I mean Virtue's Last Reward and 999, is that you can just go to a virtual message board and you see all this kind of discussion over the game, people throwing in their different kinds of theories, refuting different other theories, and it's just a lot of fun. That's half the fun of these games, is trying to figure everything out. But I'm just hoping that they give you enough clues to let us figure it out, and don't leave it I don't want a sloppy ending, that's all I'm saying. The second thing I'm worried about is actually one of the things that I said I was most looking forward to about the other games, which is who is ... And basically question mark is the person who shows up at the end of Virtue's Last Reward, and we have no idea who it is. Really, what I'm kind of worried about is that this kind of might be a device that the writer used before, where this person, this ... person, is just a stand-in for the player. And although I think that is kind of cool, I don't know, I don't really like how that would have been, how they're reusing it again. Use something different, I don't know. And I don't really know what kind of place a character like you, the protagonist, has in a story like this. I don't want to spoil another game, but when it comes up in another game by this writer, you understand why it comes up and it kind of makes sense in the story in a weird way, but I don't really know how they're going to pull it in this one, in the 3rd Zero Escape game, how they're going to tie it all together. So I could be wrong on this one, I hope I'm wrong, maybe it's not the player at all, but if they do end up reusing that and it is the player character is ? Then I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with it. I'd say cautiously curious. I hope they do it well, that's all I'm saying. The third thing I'm worried about is that there's going to be too much kind of Saw, the movie Saw, there's going to be too much gore. Now, usually if you were describing the first 999 game to your friends, then you're going to say that it's a lot like the movie Saw, because let's play a game, and then there's kind of some gruesome scenes and some body horror, there's a bit of that. And, of course, Virtue's Last Reward barely had any of that. We know that Sigma loses his arms and eyes, but all I'm saying with this one is that I hope they don't really go too overboard with it and make this game too dark and too gruesome, to the point where it's obsessive and unnecessary. I really think that they kind of hit the perfection in the first game, where they didn't really show you any gore really, but just through the descriptions and stuff, and that was kind of the only gruesomeness, like the only gross stuff they showed, and it wasn't excessive. It wasn't the point. That's the point. It wasn't the point. Whenever they did this kind of like horrible, disgusting Saw-like stuff, it was mostly just for like kind of pushing the story forward, and in a weird way kind of getting you to understand the characters better. Like the best example I could think of is obviously the Axe ending, where Clover kind of loses it and she does some crazy things, some very scary things, like chopping off your arm. And like the point of that was, well, yeah, she wanted the watch, and it was just kind of to show like how insane she was going and how over the edge she was after losing her brother and being stuck on this boat in this situation. So basically all I'm saying is that I hope that they kind of stick to level of 999's, like level of gore or like disgustingness, where it doesn't overtake the show. First of all, because I'm squeamish, but second of all, just so that they can keep it to pushing the story forward and not making it excessive and stupid. The fourth thing that I'm kind of worried about is that this game will have too many endings. As we all know from Virtue's Last Reward, the game likes to boast that it has a lot of different endings, and having a lot of different endings is kind of one of the points of this Zero Escape series, because obviously they're doing the whole multiple universes thing, like how different timelines affect each other, and so it makes sense that there's a lot of endings, but I'm just like a little bit worried that it will have that kind of Virtue's Last Reward system where there's too many endings, and some of them really just don't add much at all, and they're just kind of there to be there, just so the game kind of has something to boast about. Oh look, we have this many endings, that's great. But I'm kind of hoping that they'll go for a quality over quantity kind of thing. Like again, like the original 999, where you kind of have all these endings that all really add something significant to the story, except for maybe I guess the Axe and Submarine ending, but it still added something. Anyway, just endings that are kind of more memorable, that add more to the plot, and even like you can say like in defeat you still learn more about the story, you learn more about the characters, and that's always something great. It's not just some generic ending where Sigma dies or Sigma does something stupid and everyone says he's an asshole or something. I don't want something like that. That's all I'm saying. Not too many endings. Like, I understand why they're there, but have a point. I just want them to have a point, and not to say, oh, okay, well, 999 had like whatever 6 to 9 endings. I forget how much it is now. And then Virtue's Last Reward had like whatever 16 to 32 endings. So now we're gonna have like 64 endings just because we can. No, please, just don't. The final thing that I'm really kind of worried about for Zero Escape 3 is that it's gonna have too much to deal with. From what I've heard about this game is that they're gonna kind of bring in a lot of new they're gonna bring in some new characters, obviously, but they're also gonna try to bring in some older characters and maybe give them some closure. But the kind of thing I'm worried about is that you have the Zero Escape series. It's a big plot. It's a huge plot, and from 999 and Virtue's Last Reward, there's like a bunch of little subplots, and there's really a lot to tie up now. And okay, let's think about it like this. In the first 999 game, yeah, there was kind of this big overarching plot, but mainly it was kind of really a story of Junpei and Akane, or it's like 6, and them and their like personal struggle kind of, and like everything that's happened like after the whole the first Nonary Games incident and everything. But really, like the heart of that game, like the final puzzle there, it was about Junpei and Akane and like what happened with them and those two characters. However, what Virtue's Last Reward kind of did, and I hate to say this, it feels like I'm comparing 999 and Virtue's Last Reward and saying Virtue's Last Reward is not a good game. That's not true. It's a very, very good game, and I enjoy it, even though I like 999 a little better. What I'm just saying is that what Virtue's Last Reward did is it really kind of made the story really, really, really big. Like, it went from kind of like a personal story about like a personal vendetta to like this huge story about like a huge sci-fi plot about like saving the world from like some like epidemic and like this crazy organization and future and past collide or everything. It made everything a lot bigger. And now this third game, it has to do both. It has to tie up that story. It has to tie up the first 999 story with all these characters, but it also has to tie up the Virtue's Last Reward kind of story, which has this huge like overarching plot for like all these people, like all the millions who were killed, and like how they're gonna like that whole problem. I forget it now, but like even like people in different timelines, how they're going to save people who are in different timelines, and if you save people in one timeline, that will like doom people in another timeline. It's like they introduce so much in Virtue's Last Reward that there's a lot to cover in this third game, and it's going to be a lot, like especially because okay, these games are generally, I think 999 was only like whatever 10 to 20 hours. Virtue's Last Reward was about 40 hours, and this game's going to be presumably somewhere around that, probably around the 40-hour mark, but they have so much to cover. The good thing is, I guess, they're not really doing a nonary game, so they don't have to worry about kind of making a formulaic plot. They can kind of address all the plot points at their own pace instead of having to tease it out like they did, I guess, in Virtue's Last Reward, but I really don't know. Like, I'm scared, guys. I'm scared, like, they're not going to hit on every plot point and put it all together. So, okay, that's it. I'm gonna like cut it off before I ramble too much, but I just wanted to get some thoughts out there about some things that I'm a little worried about for the third game, for the finale, but I hope that they pull through, and really for these first two games in 999 and Virtue's Last Reward, they showed a lot of care, and I'm confident, I'm very hopeful that they will see it through to the end and they'll do it right. But again, what do you guys think? I'm very curious, and let's just get some discussion going about this game, especially because it's coming out so soon, and it's time to get excited now, guys. So, thanks for watching.